You fooled me a second, a third, a fourth time ad infinitum. Shame on me. And we just keep seeing the same methods used over and over again by these people. It's absolutely unbelievable. And here's another bit of Clinton corruption, okay? This is not even the email scandal. Yet another scandal is coming out. Fox News reports on this. Clinton sought secret information on EU bailout plans as her son-in-law's doomed hedge fund gambled on Greece. And, of course, she has a son-in-law, Chelsea's husband, who has just tanked his hedge funds. And it also has connections with the Clintons. And the amazing thing about this, when you look at how all this information went through, is that he just didn't ask his mother-in-law for advice. Hillary Clinton is one of the most effective investors ever on this planet. I mean, remember the cattle futures that she bought? First time ever. She got in the commodity futures, cattle futures market. First time ever. She had this massive home run, and she never did it again. Never did it again. Isn't that interesting? It always helps when you've got inside help on this stuff. And in this particular case, her son-in-law bet big on the Greek economic recovery. In 2012, he created a $325 million basket of offshore funds. And he did it with special help, a special arrangement from, guess who? Goldman Sachs. Who would have thought? Hillary Clinton, Goldman Sachs, her son-in-law, the EU, the Greek bailout. It's all there, folks. Yet another Clinton scandal. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host today. And, of course, we're talking about what's happened this last week, especially on the Saturday of the 4th of July weekend when Hillary had her big interview at the FBI. Are they going to hire her as Grand Mal? I guess they're all on board at the Department of Justice. We've got pays to have friends in high places, and she certainly does. And today we've got yet another Clinton scandal that's just broken. We've got Fox News reporting hedge fund manager, who is Hillary Clinton's son-in-law, put together a very large fund in 2012, $325 million basket of offshore funds with the help of Goldman Sachs. The funds have lost tens of millions of dollars, predicting that the bailouts of the Greek banking system would pump up the value of the country's bonds. One fund, dedicated exclusively to the Greek debt, suffered near total losses. In other words, for every $100 you put in there, you get nothing. Everything is gone. Now, this is her son-in-law, husband of Chelsea Clinton. Now, this all happened as she was Secretary of State. Now, here's the issue. It's not just that he made some bad decisions. You know, first bad decision was he should have had Hillary manage the fund, as I mentioned in the last segment. She is a whiz at doing investment. I mean, just look at that. The only time she ever got involved in futures markets, buying cattle futures, she made a fortune. And she never did it again. I guess she just quit while she's ahead, huh? Well, in this particular case, she was Secretary of State in 2012. She didn't step down until 2013. But newly released emails. Here we go. Here's these emails. You want to know why she had a private server? You want to know why she subordinated the interests of the national security state, this religion on which we have to sacrifice all of our individual liberties and the Constitution? We make them as burnt offerings to the security state. But, of course, for her, she doesn't care. She puts all this stuff on a private server. One of the people who is probably a person of interest to everyone on Earth, all the foreign actors, terrorists, foreign governments, allies, everyone's going to be looking at the Secretary of State's information, okay? Just like they hack into the Federal Reserve. They've hacked into the Federal Reserve now at least 50 times by the Federal Reserve's own admission. Why? Because they want to look at the meetings, the minutes of the meetings as to whether or not they're going to raise interest rates or not. If you have that kind of inside information, you can make a fortune. And you know what? If you're the Secretary of State and you've got some inside information about what's going to be happening in the European Union and with the banks and with Goldman Sachs, you would think you could make a fortune there as well. Except sometimes you're so stupid you can't even make money when you got a license to steal, okay? And that's what happened here. Say newly released emails from 2012 show that Hillary and the Clinton Foundation consultant Sidney Blumenthal, it's always the usual suspects, isn't it, shared classified information about how German leadership viewed the prospects for a Greek bailout. Clinton also shared protected State Department information about Greek bonds with her husband at the same time that her son-in-law aimed his hedge fund at Greece. Now, the only reason they lost money is because they're trading on classified information about what the German leadership thinks about what's going on in Greece, and the German leadership is clueless, as we just saw with Brexit. Okay, as we've been seeing with what they're doing with the euro and their currency and the interest markets there. They don't know what they're doing. So you can get classified information, you can violate the law, and you can share this as insider trading, and you still are passing around junk information, and that's what happened in this particular case. It's still illegal. It's still illegal to share classified information with your son-in-law so he can make a lot of money on his special Goldman Sachs-backed hedge fund, okay? This is the Clintons. This is what they do. We were told that Loretta Lynch was going to be the antidote to Eric Holder. We were told that she was going to set things right. You know, Eric Holder was this left-wing activist. He had done everything that Obama wanted to do from a political agenda standpoint. When he refused to cooperate with Congress on Fast and Furious, they had a bipartisan vote in the House. They held him in criminal contempt. Now, this is our highest-ranking law enforcement officer, the Attorney General. The Attorney General is over the FBI, over all these different law enforcement agencies. And he was held in criminal contempt, but they did not remove him. Okay? It's the first time in history that a sitting cabinet member has ever faced that kind of censure. And he continued to sit. And he left at his leisure. And he allowed people like entities like HSBC to continue laundering money for drug cartels and terrorists. They allowed these large banks to rig the LIBOR market, to rig the currency markets, the other commodity markets, stocks and bond markets. They're too big to fail, too big to jail. And he allowed all that to go on, and so they held him in criminal contempt, and eventually when he got good and ready, he went back to the office on Wall Street that had been held in reserve for him. Left just the way he left it. Kept that office for him so he could get back to the big bank. Okay? And then Loretta Lynch comes in. She's going to be the person who is going to restore trust, except she's a Clinton operative. She's part of the Clinton mob. And it was interesting, as I pointed out, in the New York Times, back in 2007, when the shoe was on the left foot, okay, or I guess we could say it was on the right foot, and these were the lefties who were complaining they didn't have a shoe. Okay, the New York Times is saying, well, you know, Alberto Gonzales, the Attorney General, he's impeachable, you know. I think we need to update that. We need to say she's impeachable. Loretta Lynch is impeachable. They said back in 2007, they said if Alberto Gonzales will not resign, and I will say if she will not resign, if she will not recuse herself, if she refuses to recuse herself, she should resign as Attorney General, really. Then they say Congress should impeach him. And they talk about how that is accomplished under the Constitution. And they say it's a bad odor in these post-Clinton days, but they say it's not just high crimes and misdemeanors, it's conduct that is grossly incompatible with the office held and subversive of that office and of our constitutional system of government. Is that not the case with what Loretta Lynch is doing? Okay, she should have recused herself. Here's a woman who has worked for Bill Clinton. She has a close personal relationship with him. That's why she said they met for a half hour. She not only has worked for him, been an employee, had a personal relationship with him, owes her career to him. She also has a political relationship with him. In every respect, she is a minion. She has a conflict of interest in investigating them. She should not be sitting there as, in this case, a judge, deciding whether or not they're going to move forward with the prosecution. At this point, she is sitting there as a judge. She should be removed from office if she will not remove herself from this case. It is absolute corruption. And I want to read another excerpt from this article going back to 2007 from the New York Times. From the New York Times, and the shoe was on the other foot. They said, well, throughout Mr. Gonzalez's testimony, he claims that he's had no memory of the November Justice Department meetings at which he authorized the attorney firings that left even Republican stalwarts like Jeff Sessions of Alabama gaping in incredulity. Okay, Jeff Sessions. Even Jeff Sessions. Well, you know what? Jeff Sessions is one of the few honest people in Washington. I remember looking at him talking to Leon Panetta, the guy who'd been a congressman, who had been chosen to be the CIA director, was also the Secretary of Defense. And as he was Secretary of Defense at the time, before he became CIA director, I remember Senator Sessions, asking him, under what circumstances would you commit troops, knowing that we don't do declarations of war under the Constitution anymore, but just wanted to get it on the record. And Leon Panetta kept saying, well, we would talk to NATO, we would talk to the UN, we would talk to international allies. And he goes, but you're going to talk to Congress, right? And he goes, well, we would advise Congress as to what we've decided. He goes, I can't believe you're saying this. You used to be a congressman. You know what the Constitution says. And we had the same situation. Here you had a Republican attorney general who was lying to Congress, okay? And who called him on it? Jeff Sessions. He's not a political hack of the left and right. This is one of the few people in Washington with integrity. I certainly hope that he's been the advisor for Donald Trump since last August on trade issues. I certainly hope that Donald Trump has the wisdom to get somebody with that kind of integrity as his vice president, the person who would call criminals from both the Republican and the Democrat Party. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host. You know, we've been told by the Keynesian economists that the Great Depression was caused by trade tariffs. And that simply is a lie. We had Ben Bernanke tell us, hey, the Federal Reserve caused the Great Depression. Sorry, we won't do it again. We know that it wasn't simply trade taxes. We'd had trade taxes in this country for a very long time. I want to play for you what Donald Trump said about the Founding Fathers, what they knew about trade, how they wanted, what free trade meant to them was free trade inside our country. And, of course, fair trade with other countries as well. We don't want to isolate ourselves, but we need to have free trade in the United States. But they used to fund the entire government when it was the size of the Constitution. They could fund it completely off of some trade tariffs. I'm going to go to that speech in just a moment. Before I do, we have a 4th of July mega special, several of them available now at InfoWarsStore.com. We have 20 to 40% off InfoWars Select Storable Food, 20% off Alexa Pure water filters, and 20% off of the air filters as well, the Alexa Pure air filters. And again, those are the water filters from the largest systems all the way down to the shower head filters that will get the chlorine out of your municipal water supply, as well as 20% off Survival Shield X2. Massive sales for this 4th of July weekend, mega specials, 20% off Survival Shield X2, off of Alexa Pure water filters, air filters, and 20 to 40% off select storable foods at InfoWarsStore.com. Let's go to this clip from Donald Trump when he was speaking in Pennsylvania earlier about the Founding Fathers.
Our Founding Fathers understood trade much better than our current politicians, believe me. George Washington said that the promotion of domestic manufacturing will be among the first consequences to flow from an energetic government. Alexander Hamilton spoke frequently of the expediency of encouraging manufacturing in the United States. And listen to this. The first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, warned that, quote, the abandonment of the protective policy by the American government will produce want and ruin among our people. He understood it much better than our current politicians. That's why he was Abraham Lincoln, I guess. Our original Constitution did not even have an income tax. Instead, it had tariffs emphasizing taxation of foreign, not domestic, production. Yet today, 240 years after the revolution, we've turned things completely upside down. We tax and regulate and restrict our companies to death, and then we allow foreign countries that cheat to export their goods to us tax-free. How stupid is this? How could it happen?